Stop arguing. Nietzsche's powerful reason why you should never do it. We live in a world obsessed with being right. Everywhere you look, people are arguing. On social media, in politics, in relationships, even in their own minds. We argue to prove a point, to win, to feel superior. But what if I told you that every time you argue, you are actually losing? What if I told you that arguing is one of the most ineffective, self-destructive things you can do? Not just socially, but for your own mind, your own growth, your own ability to live a truly powerful life. Friedrich Nietzsche, the radical philosopher who shattered conventional thinking, had a perspective on this that is so profound, so brutally honest, that once you truly understand it, you may never want to argue again. Nietzsche believed that most people don't argue because they seek truth. They argue because they seek power. Think about that for a second. When was the last time you saw an argument where one person genuinely changed their mind? It almost never happens. Why? Because arguments are not about truth. They are about defending one's identity, one's ego, one's deeply ingrained beliefs. And when someone feels their identity is under attack, they don't listen, they don't think. They fight. They dig in their heels. They double down on their beliefs, even if those beliefs are irrational, even if they are wrong. Arguing doesn't lead to wisdom, it leads to entrenchment.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
But it gets even worse. Nietzsche warned that arguing is not just a waste of time, it is a form of enslavement. Why? Because every time you engage in an argument, you are allowing someone else to control your mind. You are stepping into their frame, playing their game, reacting to their energy, and the moment you react, you have already lost. The truly powerful individual, Nietzsche argued, is not the one who wins arguments. It is the one who transcends them, the one who is so confident, so self-possessed, so completely in control of their own mind that they feel no need to argue at all. Let's go even deeper. At its core, arguing is an admission of weakness. If you truly know something to be true, why do you need to argue for it? Why do you need to convince others? The greatest minds in history, the ones who changed the world, rarely wasted time in petty debates. They simply lived their truth, demonstrated it, embodied it. And in doing so, they made arguments irrelevant. Nietzsche himself was a master of this. He didn't beg the world to understand him. He didn't waste energy trying to convince others he was right. He simply wrote, thought, created, and let time prove him correct. And here's the real mind bender. What if you stopped arguing not just with others, but with yourself? Because that's where the deepest, most destructive arguments happen, inside your own mind. The constant battle between doubt and confidence, between fear and action, between who you are and who you could be. Nietzsche believed that the most powerful individuals were not those who argued, but those who overcame the need to argue, those who moved with such clarity, such purpose, that they no longer sought validation, no longer needed agreement, no longer wasted a second of their energy trying to change minds that were never ready to change. So ask yourself, how much of your energy has been wasted in pointless debates? How many hours, how many emotions, how much mental space have you given away in arguments that led nowhere? And what would happen if starting today, you simply stopped? If you redirected that energy toward building, toward creating, toward mastering yourself? Would you lose anything of real value? Or would you, for the first time, begin to experience a kind of power, a kind of freedom that few people ever discover? The silent power of the individual who refuses to argue. There is an untouchable power in the person who does not argue, not because they lack opinions, not because they are indifferent, but because they understand something deeper. Engaging in argument is often a concession of control. To argue is to react, and to react is to be pulled into a game that someone else has set up. But the person who refuses to argue, who does not take the bait, who remains unmoved by provocation, that person commands the room without saying a word. They unsettle people. They hold a power that others can sense but cannot quite define. Nietzsche saw this as the mark of true strength. He knew that most people engage in arguments not to seek truth, but to defend their fragile sense of self. The moment you argue, you reveal attachment. Attachment to being right, attachment to validation, attachment to winning. And attachment is weakness. The strongest individual is the one who does not need to be seen as correct, who does not crave recognition, who does not seek to impose their beliefs onto others. This is not passivity, this is mastery. It is the ability to move through the world with such clarity, such self-certainty, that the noise of others becomes irrelevant. Think about the people who have truly commanded your respect. Were they the ones who argued the loudest, or were they the ones who spoke with precision, acted with purpose, and let their results speak for them? Arguing is an act of desperation. It is an attempt to force others to acknowledge your truth. But why force what can simply be demonstrated? If you know something with absolute conviction, live it, show it, become it. And in doing so, you eliminate the need for argument altogether. There is also a strategic advantage to refusing to argue. The moment you detach from needing to prove yourself, you become unpredictable, you become unreadable, and in a world where most people are controlled by their emotions, by their need to react, this makes you powerful beyond measure. When someone tries to provoke you and you do not respond, they lose control. They expect resistance, they expect engagement. But when you give them nothing, when you remain calm, composed, indifferent, they have no idea what to do. They flail. They expose their own lack of control. And in that moment, you have already won. But let's take this even deeper. What happens when you stop arguing with life itself? Because that is where the real war is waged, not in conversations, not on social media, but within your own mind. How often do you resist reality, argue with circumstances, fight against what is? Nietzsche believed that the most powerful individuals embraced life fully, without resistance. They did not waste time complaining, blaming, or wishing things were different. They accepted reality as it was and then shaped it through action. They did not argue with obstacles, they moved through them. They did not argue with hardship, they used it. This is the mindset that separates those who achieve greatness from those who remain stuck. The weak argue with reality, they resist, they complain, they dwell. The strong adapt. They do not waste energy on what cannot be changed, they focus entirely on what can be controlled. And in doing so, they transcend the need for argument completely. They become forces of nature, unshakable, unstoppable, undeniable. So ask yourself, how much of your energy has been wasted in pointless debates? How many hours, how many emotions, how much mental space have you given away in arguments that led nowhere? And what would happen if starting today you simply stopped? If you redirected that energy toward building, toward creating, toward mastering yourself? Would you lose anything of real value? Or would you, for the first time, begin to experience a kind of power, a kind of freedom that few people ever discover? The mind beyond conflict. How to master life without arguing. There is a rare kind of mind that exists beyond conflict. Not because it avoids challenges, not because it fears confrontation, but because it has transcended the need for opposition. This is the mind that Nietzsche envisioned. Not a mind that argues, but a mind that sees, understands, and acts with absolute clarity. The person who reaches this level no longer wastes energy on proving themselves to others. They no longer seek validation through debate. They no longer feel the need to engage in endless intellectual battles that lead nowhere. Instead, they rise above, operating on a plane that the average person cannot even comprehend. Most people live in a constant state of mental warfare. They fight with themselves, with others, with the world. They are always resisting, always reacting, always trying to impose their will through force. But this is a trap, because the more energy you spend on conflict, the less energy you have for creation. The more time you waste arguing, the less time you have for action. And the more you fixate on proving a point, the more you reveal your own insecurity. The truly powerful individual does not fight unnecessary battles. They do not try to control what is outside of them. They channel all of their energy into mastering what is within. Nietzsche understood that the greatest minds in history were not those who engaged in endless debates. They were those who acted. They were those who moved through life with such clarity, such purpose, that their very existence became proof of their ideas. They did not need to argue because their results spoke for them. Their creations, their philosophies, their influence, these were their arguments. But most people never reach this level because they are too caught in the trap of conflict. They believe that to be right, they must be acknowledged as right. But this is an illusion. Truth does not need recognition. Strength does not need validation. The moment you understand this, you free yourself from the need to argue forever. Consider this: every time you engage in an argument, you are giving your opponent power. You are stepping into their world, playing by their rules, accepting their frame of reality. But the person who refuses to argue, who remains indifferent to provocation, who simply continues forward without distraction, that person is untouchable. They do not waste energy defending themselves because they do not need to. They do not seek acknowledgement because they do not crave it. They move with an inner certainty that no argument can shake. But what does this look like in real life? It means choosing action over debate. It means proving your beliefs through what you build, not through what you say. It means refusing to be drawn into pointless battles that drain your energy and distract you from your true purpose. It means understanding that most arguments are not about truth, but about ego, and that the moment you engage, you have already lowered yourself to a level where nothing valuable can be gained. The ultimate power lies in detachment, in the ability to see conflict for what it is: a distraction, a drain, a game designed to pull you away from what truly matters. And the moment you step back, the moment you refuse to play, the moment you reclaim your energy for something greater, you become something rare, something unstoppable. You become the kind of person who does not argue because they do not need to, because they are already winning in ways that words could never capture. So ask yourself, where in your life are you still trapped in conflict? Where are you still wasting energy on proving yourself rather than improving yourself? And what would happen if, starting today, you let go of the need to argue? Would you feel weaker? Or would you finally experience the kind of quiet, undeniable strength that only the rarest minds ever achieve? Because in the end, the world does not remember those who argued the most. It remembers those who lived with such power, such clarity, such purpose, that their very existence made argument unnecessary. The freedom of the unshakable mind, why letting go of arguments gives you ultimate power. There is a profound freedom in the person who no longer feels the need to argue. A freedom so rare that most people will never experience it because they are too addicted to conflict, too attached to the need to be right, too consumed by the illusion that winning in argument means winning in life. But the truth is the opposite. The more you argue, the more you reveal your dependence on external validation. The more you try to prove yourself to others, the more you expose your own insecurity. The moment you let go of the need to argue, truly let go, you step into a different kind of existence. One where your energy is no longer wasted on futile battles. One where your mind is no longer pulled into distractions. One where you move through life with an unshakable sense of purpose that no opposition can touch. Nietzsche understood this better than most. He saw that the highest form of power is not in debate, not in persuasion, not in forcing others to see the world as you do. The highest form of power is self-possession. The ability to be so completely in control of yourself that nothing external can shake you. The person who reaches this level does not need to argue because they are already winning in the only way that matters, within themselves. They do not seek to dominate others in conversation. They do not waste words trying to convince those who are not ready to hear. They simply live fully and unapologetically, and in doing so, they make argument irrelevant. To argue is to fight for control over someone else's perception. But why would you fight for something that does not belong to you? Other people's opinions are theirs to hold, not yours to change. And the more you try to force them, the more resistance you create. This is why arguments rarely change minds. They only entrench people deeper into their beliefs. The moment someone feels attacked, their walls go up. They stop listening, they stop thinking, they stop questioning. And now, instead of engaging in a true exchange of ideas, you are simply clashing egos. Neither side willing to bend, both sides walking away more convinced than ever that they were right. A complete waste of time, a complete waste of energy, and a battle that never needed to happen in the first place. But when you refuse to argue, something different happens. You stop feeding the cycle of conflict. You stop giving people something to push against. You stop allowing others to dictate your mental state. And in that space, in that silence, a different kind of power emerges. When people realize that you are unbothered, that you do not need to defend yourself, that you are not seeking their approval, they become unsettled. They begin to question why you do not react. They begin to wonder what gives you such confidence, such certainty, such freedom, and in that moment they are no longer controlling the conversation. You are. Without saying a word, without engaging in a single argument, you have already won. But this is not just about how you deal with others, it is about how you deal with yourself. Because the deepest arguments are not the ones we have with others, they are the ones we have within our own minds. The endless back and forth, the self-doubt, the internal conflicts that drain us of our ability to act decisively. Nietzsche believed that the greatest minds were not those who engaged in constant intellectual struggle, but those who moved beyond it, who reached a state of clarity so strong that they no longer needed to fight with themselves. They saw reality for what it was, accepted it fully, and then shaped it through sheer will. This is the ultimate goal, to become so sure of yourself, so aligned with your purpose, so focused on action rather than argument, that you no longer waste a second of your life in pointless conflict, to let go of the need to convince, to let go of the need to prove, to let go of the need to be right in the eyes of others. Because in the end, the only thing that matters is not whether you won an argument, but whether you won your life. Whether you lived with such intensity, such conviction, such undeniable presence that no argument was ever necessary in the first place. So now ask yourself, what could you achieve if you stopped arguing? How much energy would you reclaim? How much mental space would you free up? How much more powerful, more unstoppable, more completely in control of your own mind would you become? Because the truth is, the most powerful people in the world are not those who argue the most. They are the ones who have transcended the need to argue entirely. And once you understand this, once you truly embody it, you will never waste another moment in conflict again. You will simply move, create, and dominate. Not through words, but through action. And that, in the end, is the only victory that ever truly matters.